Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Friday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Get your coffee out. We got JC this morning. In the second portion of the show, we'll be joined by former LSU quarterback, also does a bunch of radio and podcasting, Josh Booty. All right, JC. We got a lot to talk about today. First of all, last night, one of your teams, one of your many teams,
No, my main team.
Yeah, but in the dictionary where it says bandwagon fan, there's a picture of JC right next to it. So your Rams dominated the Patriots. Look, Patriots are not very good.
No.
Nothing against Cam Newton. I know he won the MVP, but he just can't throw the football well enough to play in that league. I don't want to hear about injuries.
He's been hit so many times.
Him throwing. He's never been a great thrower. But the Patriots are a bad football team.
Well, the thing about Newton, I think he's one of the only quarterbacks, or is the only quarterback to have 5,000 rushing yards and something like, 30,000 passing yards. Does that make sense? But you're right. Right now, he's the best New England could do. I think what they should do now.
I watched a lot of that. You don't think Jarrett Stidham can go in there and get sacked?
Yeah, I was going to say that I think now they are starting to realize that the wear and tear on Cam Newton is affecting him, and they need to start looking. Well, look, he's just not the same guy he was when he was winning the MVP and taking the Carolina Panthers to the Super Bowl. But Jarrett Stidham is a guy I think they could look at and maybe put in there a little bit longer or a little bit more often, because they're not – I don't think they're a playoff team in the AFC. And even though we're having 7 teams play in the playoffs in both conferences, New England, to me, is it's a non-starter for them. If they're smart, they should look at what they're going to draft next year or in April, because they're a team with a lot of deficiencies, And funny, Tom Brady yesterday says, I kind of like Florida. I'm going to sell my place in New York for $40 million, and I'm going to stay permanently down here in the South. I don't know why I stayed in the Northeast as long as I did. He said that. So it makes sense. It's a miserable place up there. And obviously, the Patriots were great. They were maybe the greatest run we'll ever see from an NFL team, but that run is over. And certainly I think he's, Brady's glad he made that move south and out of that place. Yeah, well, they had an unbelievable run, but that team, oh my God,
the team that has the arrowhead on their helmet, they're getting ready to make that run.
Yeah, well, that quarterback is the biggest reason why. But they don't play bad defense at all. They've got a great field goal kicker. They've got a great play caller in Andy Reid. They'll probably lose Eric Bieniemy in Kansas City to a head coaching job, which is good. That's fine. Andy Reid and he have worked together great, but Andy Reid is the boss of that team, and Pat Mahomes is locked up for the long term with the biggest contract a quarterback has ever signed. So certainly I think that it's all upside for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think we've said this before, QB. They're the favorite to win the Super Bowl, and they probably will.
Yep. JC, before we get to talking college football, big weekend, we got our picks, our Peachland Dental picks this weekend.
Yes.
I wanted to get your thoughts and comments on what your basketball coach at the University of Alabama stated about Coach K. Nate Oates on Coach K wanting to delay and play due to COVID-19. Quote, let me ask you a question. Do you think Coach K would be saying that if he hadn't lost 2 non-conference games at home?
Yeah.
Not only did they lose at home, they got demolished at home.
Yes.
And let me tell you, folks, Duke is not a very good basketball team.
Yeah.
And I agree. I don't know if Nate Oates should have said it that way, but I agree 100%. This has nothing to do with COVID. I know it's a pain for everybody. Okay? Games get canceled. But Duke is not very good. They are getting embarrassed. And I think that's why they just announced yesterday they're not playing any more non-conference games. And I agree with Nate Oates, but maybe he shouldn't have said it the way he said it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you sugarcoat it. It's probably it goes along the lines of what Kirk Herbstreit said a week and a half ago. You know, he's giving you an opinion based on a feeling, maybe, as opposed to a fact. But there's nothing wrong with that. It's what he thinks. I think that he's right in regards to what Duke's situation is, that they're a bad basketball team, correct? They've got a lot of work to do to get better, correct? And Krzyzewski did say that in the press conference after they got worked by Illinois. He said that we have a lot of work to do, we got to get better. But what he also said that kind of I somewhat do agree with is that it just doesn't really feel right now playing with everything that's happening on that COVID-19 front. Now, athletically,
we're playing football games, though.
Oh, no. I'm talking about with basketball because
what's the difference?
Well, here's what I think they should have done, and I wouldn't have disagreed with this if they had started the season in January or February and waited a little bit longer to start the season, because these games are so fragmented. You're going to have teams that play. I mean, it's going to be very different for some than others. And when you have more games in basketball, that gives you more opportunities to have games canceled and more opportunities to have games played. And it can be really wacky for some teams having played, I don't know, say 10 or 11, 12 games, and other teams playing 3 or 4. And
that's no different than what we're going through with football right now.
Well, that's right, but there's just more games being canceled because there's more games being scheduled, I guess, is the only thing. But it does seem like, I mean, right now, and look, I don't agree with Coach K. I think Nate Oates is right. I think he's right. I think Nate Oates is hitting it on the head with Duke. I mean, after what Illinois did to him, my goodness. So
Michigan State did it. They barely beat Coppin State. I mean, they're not very good.
Right, but I think what he's thinking is the bigger picture, and he's worried about, he gives you all the reasons why he's worried. I think those are legitimate in his mind. I don't think he's making it up. I do think, though, there is something to the fact that Duke being as bad as they are and needing and requiring a lot of work and practice, it's making it difficult. And so Coach K has to work through a little adversity right now. Well, gee whiz, what a shocker. I mean, a lot of times all kinds of teams have to work through adversity, and it's always come easy for Duke because they're Duke. But I think that right now is a challenge, and I just don't know if he's up for it right now. How long has he been coaching, QB? 30 years? I think he's one of those guys. Yeah, he's one of those guys who's probably thinking, man, I'm in the twilight of my career right now. Do I really want to go through all this? And unfortunately, these kids are young players, and they don't really care that he's been coaching for 77 years. So they just need him to be the Coach K that they've heard of and known of for their short lives. And so right now that's not happening, and Duke's a mess. So I don't know what I found it interesting that they canceled their non-conference schedule.
Well, they don't. I don't think they had it. They only had a handful.
Yeah,
left.
They only had a few left. You're right.
Because they play Monday, I believe they have their first ACC game against Notre Dame. So
that's right. Yeah,
I don't agree with it at all because everybody has to go through it. It's football has gone through it. Basketball, in my opinion, it's so much easier in basketball. You got pretty much 15 kids on your team to deal with.
Yeah. Well, you do, and
travel is so much easier. Scheduling games is easier because JC, it's just like Florida. Florida was supposed to play in Bubbleville, which was an outstanding place for all these teams to go play up at the Mohegan Sun. Their game against Virginia and UMass Lowell got canceled. So what did they do? Bubbleville had plenty of places for them to play. They scheduled to go play Army and BC. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. I don't think Coach K wants to go through it all. I just don't think he cares.
That's fine. And his team ain't got a chance of winning anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Right. That's right.
I mean, they're bad. They're a bad basketball team.
Yeah. How is Nate Oates' team? Is his team any good?
They'll be fun to watch. They still got they got John Petty, some of the guys back from last year. They fire up a bunch of threes. So the best team in the SEC that I've seen so far in basketball is Missouri.
Okay. Yeah.
Missouri.
I've seen
Tennessee's the highest ranked. They're picked to win the conference. But the best teams that I've seen so far watching college basketball in the conference, I would go Missouri 1. I just put Tennessee. They've only played one game, I believe, but I'd put them there at number 2. And I'd probably put the Gators at number 3. Kentucky's about 5 or 6. They're horrible.
Right. Yeah, they got a bad record. I do think they'll get better, though.
Well, they usually do, but usually the eye test tells you, man, they got some players.
Yeah.
I don't see it this year, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. Well, so QB, we between the last time we were on the air here and today, we knew what was coming in the Big Ten, and we knew that the conference, the Big Ten conference, would make this decision to let Ohio State play. We knew that, right?
I guess, yeah.
Well, I know you don't think it's right. If you're an Indiana fan, you certainly don't think it's right. However, is there any question that they are the best team in the East, regardless of how many games they've played? And didn't they beat Indiana? So I get what Indiana's saying. I get what the conference is saying. And this is all motivated by money. And they need money because of what's happened. So is there any real surprise that the Big Ten would do this? I think we called this one about 2 weeks ago.
No, there's no surprise at all. I just don't agree with it. I don't agree with a team only having 6 games when the majority of the other teams that are going to be in the 14 playoff are going to play 11.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, though, that Ohio State it wasn't their fault Maryland canceled on them. And
I understand that, but it's their fault that their conference are a bunch of idiots. So my point is, yes, they're part of the NCAA playoff selection, but something should be held against them for not doing what everybody else was doing.
Well, what we should see is, or what we should have seen, was the college football powers that be, starting with Bill Hancock at the top and moving on down. It wasn't a larger sample of playoff teams this year, and 4 is not enough. It's rigged. I mean, we all knew and all know what's going to happen. And then when that happens, when you can almost basically predict what's going to happen, and I don't want to hear this crap about, well, you can't predict, you don't know. We know. Okay.
Well, even if you expanded it, I still have an issue whether it's Northwestern, Ohio State playing only 6 games, and you got these other 7 teams. If it was an 18 playoff, these other 7 teams that have played 11. It ain't right.
QB, those conferences decided to start a month later.
That's their fault. Leave them out.
Yeah. Well,
and I feel bad for the kids, but now I don't need to go to play football in that conference because it doesn't mean anything to them.
I see that, and I do agree that the leadership is abject failure in this case, and they were set up to fail. Why can't we just say that? Why doesn't anybody in the media just flat out say that the leadership of the Big Ten is a failure and there needs to be changes at the top for future issues that come around? And I don't think we'll have to deal with something like this in the future. That's true. But why are we so afraid to call out Kevin Warren? Why are we so afraid to call out these presidents in the Big Ten that really didn't want to play to begin with, except for 4 schools? And why don't we call out the people in the Pac-12 for being absolutely miserable at their football business? So
maybe they'll realize this when we get back to some normalcy, when a lot of the athletes say, I don't want to go play there.
Well,
now maybe they're not getting all the 5 stars. Now all the 5 stars are going back to the SEC. I don't know. It irritates me. It bothers me.
Well, I think one school that's in that part of the country that's thrilled to death not to be in the Big Ten Conference is Notre Dame. I mean, they made a choice to go to the ACC, and the ACC was the first conference to make the decision to play football this year. And there are a lot of kids and families of those kids who are absolutely thrilled that this happened, because not that they were really concerned, I think, about COVID-19, but because those players had a chance to get out there on the field and show the NFL and show people what they can do, because that's the next step for many players, and for others it's just about finishing your seasons and getting a year in. And plus, look, this is a year that doesn't count toward eligibility. These guys could come back and play more if they wanted to, but I don't think it was a bad idea to play football. Some people suggested that it was not even a good idea to play football, and I can tell you I can name 10 kids right off the top of my head on all 10 fingers who are thrilled that they were able to play football, because it's going to help them further their career and make a lot of money at the next level.
For mental health for student athletes, they needed to play sports. Trust me.
That's
I don't think people realize that.
That's where it begins.
I don't think people realize how
And
how
coaches.
bad these kids were, the things they were going through
Yeah.
when everything was shut down. But, it doesn't matter, JC. We're going to sit here a year from now on this podcast, and I can promise you 3 teams will be in the 14 playoff again. Well, those 3 teams are, right?
Yes, and a lot of folks have problems with that. I mean,
it's going to be Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State will be back in the 14 playoff next year. That's why I am praying. I am praying because I really believe this will happen.
Okay.
If Clemson beats Notre Dame and Florida beats Alabama, the mighty Buckeyes will be going to the Peach Bowl or something.
So my friend in Tallahassee, who's a big-time Ohio State fan, he said he ordered an Alabama shirt, and he is going to wear that shirt because they have to have Florida lose. I agree with that 100%. And I think, what's Texas A&M got to say about this? Hey, we went 9-1 and beat the team that they're putting in ahead of us. Is that right? No. But that's what happened, right? It's kind of weird. If you're Texas A&M, what are you thinking right now? You have zero opportunity, really. Here's
an interesting thing to digest here. What if the SEC were to go to how the Big 12 and the ACC did this year? No divisions, best 2 records play one another. You would have A&M and Alabama playing in Atlanta.
Yeah, it would be a rematch, and I'm not too interested in that. I think
but still, I'm just saying.
Yeah, you would.
That could solve a lot of problems for the conference if they weren't to do that.
It could, but I think the conference is thrilled that Florida is where it is. I think Georgia's had their opportunities; they failed. They couldn't beat Alabama, and now it's back to Florida, Alabama. Florida and Alabama have played the most SEC championship games and the most exciting SEC championship games, even though Alabama and Georgia had some real thrillers. It's been Florida and Alabama, right? And so there's also been some real duds too. But this game in particular that we will certainly get into much deeper next week is going to be one that I think the conference will be proud of because it's going to really showcase some outstanding football players and some great teams. And someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. There's a possibility, though, that after the game, if Florida wins, both teams are going to win because they're going to stick them both in the playoff. Alabama is a certainty to get in. The question is now, how long do the starters play tomorrow when they face off against Arkansas? I think what the answer will be is not as long as in the past. He'll probably yank them after halftime and when Alabama's up 4 touchdowns or more, and that'll be the end of it for their offensive linemen and many of their starters because he's got to protect that team for the championship game. Yep. Same with Florida.
We've given way too much of my airtime to the Ohio State Buckeyes. It's now time for your Peachland Dentistry JC and QB weekend picks. So what do we got, JC? Let's lead it off here.
We don't have Ohio State. So let's start it off. You are 59-50. You've hit you've kind of slowed down here lately because you were out ahead. I am 23 games above 500, 66-43 against the spread. Week 12 has Utah in the Pac-12. We're going to do a few games here now, but we don't have to spend a lot of time on each, but we're going to do them anyway to give you a chance to catch up. Utah is getting 2 points against are they unbeaten, the Colorado Buffalo? I mean, how about the Colorado Buffalo?
Don't know and don't care.
Don't care, right. Well, if you like college football, you should know something about the Pac-12.
Okay, so where's this game at?
Well, it's in Colorado, but I don't really see why that matters. But
and they're only favored by 2 points?
Yeah, they're favored by 2, and Colorado
makes no sense.
Well, they're ranked 21st in the country. They're 4-0.
They should be favored by about 8 or 9 points.
Well, Utah was very impressive in their win last week. They've got Jake Bentley. We all remember Jake Bentley from South Carolina.
Okay, so I'm taking. Well, we're not going to spend all this time because we only got about 10 more minutes and we got a bunch of games. I'll take the Utah Utes.
And I'm taking Colorado. I think they're going to stay unbeaten, and they're only giving up 2. Here's a great game for you. Illinois is getting 14 points against the Big Ten West champion Northwestern Wildcats. What do you like there?
Who are they playing? Because I was reading a question here. I'm getting ready to read this out loud. I love this.
Illinois getting 14 against Northwestern, the Big Ten West champion.
I'll take Northwestern.
Okay, what's your quote?
Real quick, we got a Facebook Live here brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law firm partner with Florida Gators. It comes from David. Listen to this one, JC.
Sure.
Should Alabama tank in the SEC championship game to allow 2 teams to go Wouldn't that be great?
That would be great. I think, though, that the odds of that happening are zero.
Oh, I know that, but I mean, wouldn't that be awesome if Saban, if our conference came together and said, you know what, we're going to stick it to the Big Ten?
Well, I don't know. Would the committee like that if they lost?
Who gives a damn
Arkansas?
what the committee thinks? We don't like what they're doing now.
They're the ones picking the teams, QB.
Right, but they won't. They don't need to know. This could be like, we could be up 40 to 40. It could be a 40 something game, and then we could have Mac Jones throw a pick six to lose, like we lost to Alabama, 30 something years ago.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, you remember that? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, look, I think Florida's got a chance to win this game. They do have.
Okay, well, we're talking about that next week. Let's go back to our picks. I love that. I hadn't thought about that.
Miami is laying. This is a good game. Miami is laying 3.5. They've only lost once to North Carolina. The game is in Miami. Miami is a team that's only got one loss, and they're ranked in the top 10.
That's another that makes no sense. They should be favored by 7 or 8 points.
Well, it shows you that twice. I think people don't believe they're as good as their record.
I don't think they're not very good. It goes to show you how bad college football is right now. I'll take the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Yeah, I don't think they're good either. But I'm going to stay with Miami at home, laying the 3.5. Here's a great game for you. This is a good one. Duke Blue Devils, who let me see. Yeah, they're 2-8. They've somehow played 10 games, about to be 11. They're playing the Florida State Seminoles, who are 2-6 and haven't played. I don't even remember their last game. And
you know what?
They are getting points.
You know what?
Go ahead.
Florida State's got the better athletes, the better coaches. Even though they've only won 2 games, I'm going with the mighty Duke Blue Devils.
Well, you're also getting 4.5 points, and I wouldn't be surprised one bit. Here's a pretty good game. These two teams are actually playing good football right now, and I know it's in the conference you don't care about, but it is a very good game. It's a rivalry game. The 15th ranked and unbeaten Trojans playing Chip Kelly and the UCLA Bruins, who have won 3 games in a row, I think. They're 3-2, and USC is only laying 3 in the Rose Bowl, empty Rose Bowl.
Yeah, this is going to be a good game. UCLA is playing much better. I like the QB at Southern Cal. I'm going to take the Trojans.
All right, I'm going to go with the Bruins. Virginia is getting 3 against Virginia Tech, another rivalry game. Who you got there?
I'll take the Hokies.
Gosh, these teams are just struggling right now, and I will too. Here's the one. Here's the game. Army-Navy. Navy is getting 7 points. They are playing this game at West Point at the Army Academy. Yes, this game is in New York at West Point, and Navy is getting all of 7 points.
I'm going to take the points. I'm going to take the midshipmen getting the points. I think Army wins the game, though.
I have to go with Army there. To the SEC, the Auburn Tigers, 5-4, laying 6.5 to a team that hasn't played in a couple of weeks, Mississippi State. Who you got there?
Well, I think Mississippi State's going to play with a little more give a damn, as Coach Spurrier likes to say.
You do?
I'm going to take the Bulldogs.
I'm taking them, too, with 6.5. I can't stand Auburn. Tennessee is trying to get off the snide. They're 16.5-point favorites against Vanderbilt. Who you got there?
I'll take the Commodes.
Oh, man, that's a lot of points. I'm going to go with Tennessee, and I don't know why. I have no idea why. Vandy goes to QB. Alabama, 31.5. Is that number going to hold up, or is Arkansas going to backdoor them? And you know that I am sworn not to pick against Alabama since week 3, and I'm not. So,
well, it's interesting you just brought that up. I didn't even think about it because, as you said, this game's probably going to be 38-3 at half.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce Young is going to come in, but he's still a good player. God, they could backdoor.
Yeah.
I'm still going to go with the Crimson Tide.
Okay, you got Alabama. I put you down for Arkansas. That's so many points, QB. You kidding me? Georgia.
I've seen them in person. I've seen Arkansas in person. They ain't very good.
Yeah. Georgia laying 13 against Missouri. That seems too high. I'm taking Missouri with the points at home in Missouri.
Yep. I think Eli Drinkwitz is the coach of the year. They may win the game. Yeah, wouldn't shock me if they win the game. I'll take the Tigers.
And then LSU, who I think is completely disengaged, is getting 23.5 against the Gators, and it's the same. It's the same scenario with Alabama. It's the same.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Because, you think about LSU got dominated by A&M a couple of weeks ago, but they ended up covering on a late touchdown.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Gators. I think they're going to be ahead, but anything can happen late in that game. Who knows?
Well, I think Florida is easily the winner here, but I'm going to take the 23.5 points, and I hate LSU. I hate them. NFL games of the week are Kansas City, the Chiefs coming down to play the Dolphins. Dolphins, big winners last week against Cincinnati, trying to get into that wild card. Kansas City trying to catch Pittsburgh. Got a break last week with Pittsburgh losing for the best record in the AFC. I think Kansas City is giving up a touchdown here, but they have not covered in the last 3 games. Played close games. Who do you like in this one? That's a lot of points.
I'm going to stick with the Chiefs. Eventually, they're going to cover.
Yeah, and I think the reason here is that I'm also going to go with the Chiefs because eventually they're going to cover, is because I just don't think Miami with Tua is ready to cover that spread against a very good defense. And the other NFL game of the week, as we wrap it up, is Pittsburgh getting 2 points against Buffalo. Pittsburgh has not had a full week off, or has not had a week off, and they haven't had a week in between games in quite some time. That's a tired football team, and Buffalo, I love them at home in Buffalo. Give me the Bills getting the 2.
No, I like Buffalo as well.
Okay. Buffalo,
we got a Facebook Live here question brought to you by Metal Law, the only official law firm partner of the Florida Gators. Gene asks, how often does Army and Navy play at home venues? Usually it's in Philly or Baltimore, I thought. Well, yeah,
that's absolutely right. No.
Because of COVID.
Yes, it is all because of COVID, and they have played in Annapolis before. I don't know when the last time they played at West Point, but that is exactly why they're moving it, is to stay on campus in this case and stay out of these cities, and that's what's happened. So I'm glad they're playing. At one time, I had a Navy friend tell me he was scared they might not even get the game in, but they are going to play it.
So I wonder how many of the midshipmen get to come to this game.
Yeah, I didn't read about this game. I just know that I was uncertain they were going to even play. So whether the midshipmen and the cadets, don't forget the cadets there, QB. Yeah.
Well, the cadets are going to be on campus.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
That's right.
That's what I'm talking about.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Refresh your vehicle and your brand with the vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot. December is your lucky month at Wrap Spot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap.
Wow. This line doesn't make sense either, QB. I should have had this game. Why is Wisconsin favored to beat Iowa? Why? Wisconsin is laying 2 at Iowa? No,
that makes no sense.
You want a lock, you take the Hawkeyes.
Yeah. Okay.
What is this, QB? Is this the Hawkeye right here?
I don't know what that is. Hope it's not some kind of sign.
No, it's a Hawkeye.
I got to go through our This Day in Sports, brought to you by Comfort Temp. At Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. This month, get a free annual maintenance plan with every residential duct cleaning purchased, $199 value. Service department's open and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So listen to what happened on this day, JC.
All right.
This Day in Sports. Back in 1993 and in 2000.
Yeah.
The semis got a Heisman Trophy award for Charlie Ward and Chris Winkie on that same day.
What, on the same day? I'll be darned. Yeah, that's their guy. Charlie Ward was their guy, man. What a player.
And Chris Winkie was their guy too.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good, yeah.
But he was like a 27-year-old senior, which should not have counted. It was ridiculous.
Exactly. And I will always say Charlie Ward was their best player.
Okay. Our good friend Rick here gave us a Facebook Live brought to you by Metal Law. He says there will be about 9,000 spectators for the Army-Navy game, about 4,300 cadets and 4,300 midshipmen.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Rick. Yeah, it's a great game. I mean, everybody has an interest in that game, whether you like football or not. And certainly the cadets and the middies, going to Philadelphia last year was a great experience for me. And I really enjoyed that game. We have a mutual friend who met me there as well, Shane, and he brought his son, Tyler, with him. It was just a tremendous experience. And, Navy won the game. The game really wasn't even that good. But everything leading up to that game and then during that game was really cool. Yeah.
All right, JC. Have a good weekend, my man. We got to wrap it up. We got to get Josh Booty on.
Okay, sounds
Center
good.
State Bank, we put business first. We're the largest community bank in the state of Florida. Understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. Center State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations serve you better. Center State Bank, member FDIC. We're going to take our first time out. We come back. We'll be joined by former LSU quarterback Josh Booty. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
Hey, Gator Nation, this is your former head ball coach, Steve Spurrier. Check out our show, Inside the Huddle with Shane Matthews and Steve Russell, every Tuesday during football season on 8:50 a.m. and 98.1 FM WRUF at 10 o'clock a.m.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Big Mills Cheesesteaks, MB Listing, Cornerstone Financial, McDonald's Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie, Chick-fil-A on Archer Road, Aver and Smith Personal Injury Attorneys, Orange Theory Fitness, PRP Regeneration Specialist, and Dowling Signs. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Friday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point's where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Palmetto Moon, Medici's, Nike, The Keys Grill and Piano Bar. Opening soon, Dave & Buster's, and coming spring of 2021, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you, Celebration Point, where the Gators come to celebrate. We're going to go to the Titan MR hotline now. We're joined by former LSU quarterback Josh Booty. Good morning, Josh. How are you?
Man, I'm doing wonderful. I always like being on your show and talking football. I know it's a big week for you guys, and for us too at LSU, we need to do something right. It's been a long time since we've done anything right, it seems like, since last year. So this is going to be a fun, eventful week, but you guys are really good.
Yeah, so let's talk about LSU's program. Obviously, last year was a magical year with the way Joe Burrow played. I mean, you lose a ton of players to the NFL. Are you surprised at how bad they've looked at times this year? I mean, I know when you lose that many good players, you're not going to be the same team, but LSU always has talent. They also lose both coordinators. Do you think that has something to do with it?
I do, big time. I think, the difference of not being able to really acclimate yourself to the new play calling, especially on defense with Aranda leaving and Pelini coming in and running a different sets, really the 3-4, the 4-3, totally different, really game plans. And when you recruit players to play a certain defense, they come in, they've got to adjust to a new coordinator. And then Pelini hasn't really been at LSU for 10 years. So he knows Baton Rouge, but Baton Rouge doesn't know him. These kids don't know Pelini. So that's been a big disappointment this year, is just the way we've really handled ourselves on defense. We're giving up, I think, 313 yards a game through the air, which is last in the SEC. So you can't hang your hat on that, and win many ball games. And the way people are throwing the football like you guys are doing and putting up unbelievable numbers, a lot like we did last year, it's very hard to stay in ball games. Right now we're playing with freshman quarterbacks and the offensive line. We lost 4 out of 5 of those guys last year. So, it's just very difficult to try to play in shootouts with teams because of freshman quarterbacks now having to play with Miles Brennan being out the last month.
Yeah. So back to the defense, do you think Coach O made a mistake hiring Bo Pelini, or even hiring him? Should they have kept the same type of system in place and not change?
Yeah, I think it was. Now looking back at it, I think it was a mistake, and I don't know if he'll make it through this offseason or maybe at even the end of the year, to be honest with you. I mean, they're looking for ways, I think, to make a move there and make a move quick. I think, when they did hire him because they had success with him back in the early 2000s when he was there, everybody was excited. Pelini's back. We had some great defenses. Everybody knows, it's Marcus Spears and Corey Webster and some of those guys that played in the National Football League were on those defenses, and they had a lot of success. So the fan base was excited about Pelini being back in Baton Rouge. But at the end of the day, when there's no production, there was no real off season for those players to even get adjusted to it, really, with COVID and no spring football really and no contact and summer workouts and all that. It just changed the game for him. And then I think the emergence of the RPO and the spread in the SEC is completely different than what Pelini had to deal with in the past. And that, I think, is the biggest difference. Is he's not adjusting to this new style of offense that everybody's gone to. And back 10, 12, 15 years ago, that wasn't the case. No one did this except for, the Gators with the fun and gun, but it still wasn't a spread, 5 wides, all the speed sweep stuff, the RPO stuff, and quarterbacks kind of getting out in space and playing like point guard, and I think that's what's really got to him.
Yeah. And even with the new system, I think what surprised me the most, even though he wants to play a lot of man coverage, is, LSU, whether it's LSU or Florida, who's DBU, whichever one claims it. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised at how bad they've looked back there in man coverage. Does that surprise you?
It does, because we have great players. Elias Ricks is a freshman. He started, I think, the second or third game of the year, and he was a very high profile recruit from IMG. And you guys probably know exactly who I'm talking about. Was a California kid at Modern Day, and he was going to play the other side opposite to Stingley, who last year made a humongous impact on that great LSU team. And it kind of goes to show you a little bit. I was thinking about this morning when I was out doing a jog. I was like, you're only as good as the people around you, right? And if you're a quarterback like we were, or you're a defensive back like Derek Stingley, who might be a top 10 pick next year, he's just a sophomore, he's still a young 20-year-old kid. But, if you don't have a pass rush, if you can't stop the run, if you can't get them in third and long, then they have to hold their ground for so much longer out there, their turf, and trying to cover. And that's why teams, in the National Football League, as we see it every week, the Kansas City Chiefs just eat people up because they make you cover every blade of grass. Mahomes can do everything. And then those defensive backs have to cover those guys all over the field, and that tight end is so special. And that's what Florida has is Pitts. And so it's very hard to cover, that type of speed and athleticism. We have great defensive backs in those two guys, but they're 19 and 20 years old. And when you don't get a pass rush, they're going to be very vulnerable out there because they can't cover guys all over the field the entire time in space. And it's like when we used to, when we used to go through one-on-one drills in, high school, college, and pros, when you got one DB and one wide receiver, the receiver usually wins one-on-one drills. They should, because they're working on a whole half of a field, right? And so that's what they're having to do. It's very hard when you don't have a pass rush. Guys are sitting back there collecting their thoughts and making good throws. And that's, I think, the difference this year from last year. We had a bunch of guys that could go get it last year, and that's what, go rush the passer, and that makes a big difference.
Yep. At Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today, 352-244-0840. We're speaking with former LSU quarterback Josh Booty on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. Looking at y'all's offense, historical offense last year, it was the best I'd ever seen. I thought Joe Burrow may have been the best college quarterback I've ever seen. Well, he had the best season of all time. You lose a ton of players. One of the receivers opts out. Eric Gilbert, who is a stud tight end who looks a lot like Pitts. He's now, I think, opted out, won't play against Florida. You lose the Hilaire kid, the backfield, and anytime you lose that many good players and the quarterback, it's going to hurt you. But I thought Miles Brennan early in the year played well, put up a bunch of numbers. Just the defense didn't do their job. Do you think LSU would have more wins right now if Miles was still at quarterback?
I think they would. there's a few games where like Bama, Bama was going to beat us down no matter what, and I think you guys have a really good shot of doing some of the similar things that Bama did, especially on offense. And we're not going to be able to keep up. That's just we'd have to play out of our mind. I think we're plus 950 in the betting. I mean, LSU plus 950 against Florida. That's unbelievable. That's unheard of. You'd have never thought that. But, going into the season, I just think Miles Brennan gives us a lot better opportunity because he's got way more experience. I mean, those practice sessions against those defenses that we've had in the past, and he's been, the backup going against the ones last year, even when Burrow was doing so well, even in practice, Brennan was having to go against the ones. And how a great defense gets quarterbacks ready. And that's why I think Alabama's so good every year on offense, is because they're having to go up against that defense every day in practice. They're not going to see any better than that, on Saturdays. And I think there's a lot of experience that goes with it. He's a 4 or 5 year guy. He's been there a while, fourth year guy, been there a while competing against good defenses. So yeah, he's way ahead of those other freshmen. They might be good athletes, but this guy's 3 or 4 years older and a lot of more experience. So yeah, he would have given us a lot better shot, I think. But he's not a runaround guy either. Burrow made a little bit more happen with his legs, and he'd get out of the pocket. He would scramble. The rush didn't bother him. Brennan's not that athletic. So it's a little different. He's a little different quarterback than Burrow for sure. But he gives us a lot better chance than the freshmen, especially this year. Now, next year, they might catch up to him be a little closer to him and just in their ability to process stuff, but not right now.
Speaking of the two freshman quarterbacks, if you were coaching LSU, and obviously you watch more LSU than I do, but I've seen a lot of college football. To me, Max Johnson looks like the kid that understands how to play the game a little bit more. Obviously, his dad, Brad Johnson, played in the Super Bowl and all that. But he just looks like he knows when to get rid of the football. And the other kid looks very talented. Who would you be playing if you were Coach O?
That's a great question. I mean, Max Johnson, I think, because his ability to process stuff a little faster and understand maybe what they're trying to get done. He looks like, to me, the same way, a little bit more comfortable with, processing the information that's in front of him. And I think Finley has got tons of upside. I mean, he looks to me like Jamarcus Russell or Rohan Davey. They're 6'4", 6'5", 240, 250. And, he's not scared of nothing. He sits back there and he'll take a hit and, guys are hanging off of him and he'll run, but he's not a scramble. He's not going to go get you 100 yards on the ground. He's just a big physical guy. He's not a Cam Newton. So, he's going to have to win with throwing the ball on time, accuracy, reading defenses, because he's not going to just kill you with his legs. He's kind of a rumbler, stumbler, So I think Max Johnson, if he can process information faster, that's the guy that I would play right now. And then I'd try to get this TJ Finley ready to play maybe even next year, because of his upside's great, because he's more physically talented and maybe throws the ball a little bit harder. But I just think you're right. I'm seeing the same thing you are. Max, it looks like his completion percentage is better. His turnover ratio is better. So I would be playing him to start the game. But I don't know what they're going to do. They usually start Finley.
Yeah. Talking about Coach O, obviously he's more of a CEO. I'm sure he goes down there with the defensive line and yells and screams and does defensive line drills with them. But he's that guy that just kind of lets the offense coordinator, defense coordinator do their job. You said there may be some turnover there, but what's the leash on Coach O with the LSU faithful after what's going on this year?
Well, if they come back and do the same thing next year, the leash will be pretty tight around the neck. I think they're going to look at recruiting. You can't lose guys like Eric Gilbert. I mean, he entered the transfer portal and he said he's homesick. And when all this stuff's happening in COVID and there's no fan base and you're losing, and you're playing two freshman quarterbacks and you're not moving the football, he's probably thinking, I got to go back to maybe the University of Georgia, maybe Florida, Clemson. I don't know, but those would be the places I'm looking at that are moving the football up and down the field. And he came to LSU because he saw them move the football up and down the field last year and got excited about our fan base and the stadium, I'm sure. But you can't lose guys like that. So Orgeron, they're going to look really hard at how he's recruiting. And I think we're doing pretty good. But at the same time, we've got to develop these young players that we got. We got 6 players last week that played against Alabama, freshman players that played against Alabama in starting roles. And so we got to give Orgeron and these guys a chance. They're going to make a move at defensive coordinator. I can't see how they wouldn't do that. And then hope that offense shores up. Miles Brennan will be back next year and see how that goes. But Orgeron, if he goes back to back, 3-4 wins, buddy, it's going to get tight because he's not, everybody's going to be saying, well, they had 15 NFL guys drafted the year they won the national championship. It wasn't Orgeron that did anything. It was all those players. So,
right.
What have you done for me lately is going to start creeping up if they have another year like this next year.
We got a few more minutes here with Josh Booty, former LSU quarterback. Looking at the Florida team, I don't know how much you watch the Gators, but Kyle Trask, his story's phenomenal. He's having an unbelievable year. And what's crazy is he's ahead of pace of Burrow. Mac Jones is ahead of pace. Matt Corral at Ole Miss is ahead of pace. The game has changed a lot. But just your thoughts being a former quarterback, what you've seen from Kyle Trask.
Man, he's a stud. He, big physical, strong guy, throws guys open. I like how he, I love how they use Pitts. I also like the one-on-one balls. If the receiver's beating them, he throws it up the field. If they've got the defensive back pinned on their hip, he throws them open back shoulder. And I just love how the receivers will go up and make plays for him. I think this is probably the best group of wideouts and, of course, the tight end and offensive players that Mullins had at his disposal. And I think it's showing up big time. I know your defense has been vulnerable at times, and a lot like LSU's defense, you've given up a lot of points. But the offense is so good that over time in second halves, teams are having a hard time keeping up with you guys. And then they get one-dimensional, and then that's when Florida gets sacks. And then it's now, the game goes in y'all's favor. And I've seen that 3 or 4 times when I've watched your games close. I don't think Trask has got a monster arm. And, I'd like to get your feeling on it. But I think he understands football. He understands take what they give you. He understands how to throw guys open in one-on-one coverage. He uses the tight ends. He doesn't make mistakes. Tony's a heck of a player. They run the football. It's just fun to watch. I like the offense a ton, and he's having one heck of a year.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I wanted to ask you this. I don't know if I've ever asked you that, because one of my favorite places to play is a night game at Tiger Stadium. Where was your favorite place you played on the road in the SEC? The environment is Florida. We played an early game there in 2000 and got waxed. Rex Grossman and Gaffney and those guys were so good. Just Saban's first year at Florida. And we didn't have the horses to play with you guys on the road. I think Gerard Warren, 3rd pick overall in the draft, sacked me, 6 or 7 times. You guys had great players all over the field. In 97, my brother was a receiver at LSU when we beat Florida at LSU, right?
At LSU, and y'all were number 1, and that was a big win for the program at the time. And my brother had 100 and something yards. He was a freshman receiver and had a great game. But I think on the road, the funnest environment I played in was probably at Georgia, because we played a game where we went for 2 at the end of the ball game, and the pass got knocked down, but we played a really fun, close game. The game I played at Florida, because I started 2 years, I was only there 2 years because of baseball, and I played played Florida twice. I played everybody twice that we played in our side of the division, but Georgia and Florida were by far my favorite places to play. And I love the between the hedges stuff. And I loved coming to Florida Field.
Yeah. Last thing for you, Josh, obviously I think we both agree Florida should beat LSU. Let's look ahead. Alabama, and you follow the SEC, you do radio and stuff. They're the most balanced college offense I've seen in maybe my lifetime.
Yeah.
How do you see this championship game with these 2 high-powered offenses playing out?
Well, I think Alabama's defense is getting better and better and better. And I love the fact that Najee Harris is, been incredible. 20 touchdowns, lead the nation in touchdowns rushing. I mean, and Devontae Smith, I think, might be the best player in college football. He gets open. Kids from Louisiana, I know Orgeron hated seeing that last week, 213 yards receiving against us in Louisiana in his backyard. I mean, Bama, I'd have to give the advantage to Bama just because of they're balanced and they play great defense. And, when Jalen Waddle went out early in the year on that kick return, I thought, man, Bama, they might not be the same offensively without him because he gives, and then Michie started, Miche or whatever, Michie started coming up and playing unbelievable. And then the Billingsley kid, it's like they got all these athletes just in the stable, right? And it's fun to watch. And Mac Jones doesn't make mistakes either. He's playing like trash. So it's like, I would lean more toward Bama because of their defense, but that's not to say Florida can't go in and score 40 points against them because Alabama showed some vulnerability on defense. They've kind of bend, don't break. So, that could become a shootout and Trask and them have a field day. And Mullen is a great game day play caller. And so I think that, but so is Sarkisian and what they're doing. And so I would think Bama would be favored, by 7 to 10.
No, it's already come out. They're favored by 14 points.
Oh gosh. Yeah. I mean, I that's a lot. I would probably go Florida plus 14, but if it was at 7, 8, 9, I would probably take Bama just because of the strength and been in those games so many times. And they have that wonderful offense and that running back is unbelievable.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Hey, before we let you go, you do a podcast, a couple of radio shows. Let everybody know how they can check that out.
Yeah, it's at SECQB POD on Twitter, and it's on the Believe Podcast Network. It's one of the nation's, best podcast networks. But we do the SEC Quarterback Podcast, but we call it SECQB POD. So you can follow us on Twitter, and it's on the Believe Podcast Network. Yeah.
Good stuff, my man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you taking the time to join us, and we wish your Tigers a little bit of luck when they come to the Swamp.
Yeah, we're going to need a lot of luck, brother. But thank you for having me, and it's always fun to visit with you and talk football, brother.
Absolutely. That's Josh Booty. Join us on the Titan MR Hotline. We're going to take our final time out. We come back. We'll wrap up this Friday edition. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
This is Shane Matthews. Thank you for listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning. You can also check me out on Inside the Huddle with Steve Russell and the head ball coach Steve Spurrier. Tune in every Tuesday during football season on WRUF 98.1 FM, 8:50 a.m. at 10 o'clock in the morning, or find us on your favorite podcast platform. We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, where you matter most. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. Celebration Point Town Center, Center State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Ribs, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Rap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Radware for all your promotional needs, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, TB Financial, Meadowbrook Golf Course, Gar Shakow Insurance. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click the Advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to this Friday edition of Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I want to thank JC for joining us, doing our Peachland Dentistry weekend picks. Also, Josh Booty, former LSU Tiger, talking LSU football. We got a couple of Facebook Lives here from Natasha, brought to you by Meldon Law. Phil Trask is a mental QB as well. He's a real student of the game, and I think some of that comes from playing backup and being on the sidelines for an unusual amount of time. Do you think the time he spent not playing is paying off now? Possibly. Sometimes you're just a smart kid. He understands the game, knows what Dan and Brian Johnson are trying to do. That's what makes him such a good quarterback. He knows why they're calling the plays, where to attack. Also, Rick says, don't forget tomorrow's 12-12 day at Krispy Kreme. Not sure what that means, but maybe if you buy a dozen, you get a dozen free. So I think that is what it is. But anyway, folks, be safe this weekend. Enjoy the game. Final game in the Swamp this year. Should be a good day. It's Senior Day. Send these seniors out on a good note. And we will be back next week for the big championship weekend breakdown. Appreciate you joining the show. Follow us and like us. Tell all your friends about us as well. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Take care, folks.